Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central here in Kent, Ohio, with the daily news, the daily views, and some daily clues as how you need to go ahead and pay your dues. Yes, it's about time. It's about time that you go ahead and pay your dues so all your friends, family, and loved relations do not have to sing the blues for the rest of their lives. Greetings to one and all. Greetings to one and all. You know what the time it is. You know what you need to do. So go ahead and just do it until you're satisfied. Go ahead and subscribe to our Tubular Black Facts channel, first and foremost. Next up on the list, let's go ahead and share a few words of wisdom from the mind of Dr. Edward W. Crosby. Let's see what he's got to share with us today. Well, you know, sometimes life can seem somewhat unfair. Sometimes it can seem like we're just not getting our just due. And when those times happen, we have a tendency to feel kind of pissed off. So my daddy, Dr. Crosby, the father of Black History Month, always liked to say, it's better to be pissed off than to be peed on. Better to be pissed off than peed on. Yeah, just a few words of wisdom from the man himself. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and move right along. We're going to go ahead and read a poem. Let's see what we got over here. Yep, we should have one right over here. We're going to read one from The Songs from an Afrophone by Eugene Redmond. There we go. Eugene Redmond's book, Songs of an Afrophone, vintage 19, and when did he write this thing here? Songs from an Afrophone. Let's see what he's got here. Got no date. That's what he's got. 1972. Vintage 1972. So let's go ahead and see what we have here. Ah, perfect. Because I was just talking about the blues. And wouldn't you know, we got one in here called Blues Tone number 2 for Jerry Herman and other black writers. Blues tone, blues drone on a typewriter, blue writes, blue writes. Blue thumps of drumping, pleading, exhorting, paper screens, rap tap drums of inundation of syncopation, and a body beat, an idio beep, an idiophone, a driving home, a drive sweet, against the natural mattress, the clay carpet of eternal rhythm of divine rhyme, flowing from feet street into sacred fingers, fingers spilling folk hymns across a giant ellipsis, and crocheting riddles through cross-worded weapons, blue writes, fingers bled blue through pen prayer, through type key cadence, church chant, and dog boogie. Rap tap and centuries collide or speed by. Rap tap and ancestors swarm or sugar thought the head. Rap tap and the type is a tear, making words sag. Rap tap and urge is an owl staring from wee words in the night. Blue tone on typewriter. Rap tap. Breastplate, soul insulated in blood blue. Heart flamed, fingers scratching, rap, tap, scraping the epidermis of the mind. And there is a poem out of Songs from an Afrophone by none other than Eugene B. Redmond. Because that's just who he be, Mr. Redmond. And now we're going to go ahead and get to the meat, the heart of our program today, which is from the book of Crosby. And today, from the book of Crosby, we're going to read some more of the stories that Dr. Crosby has deemed acceptable to be shared with the public. This is from his autobiography, his unpublished autobiography, so you can only get it here. This is an exclusive. It's like we're having an interview with Dr. Crosby, reincarnated right now. So this is your opportunity to not just match wits with, but to benefit from the largesse, the mental capacity, the experiences of the father of Black History Month, Dr. Edward W. Crosby. So without further ado, let me go ahead on and share a little something with you. See if we can get this page to turn, because I see we're on the previous page here. Oh, now what happened? Oh, I see. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm on the right page. So let me just scroll down a little bit here. Make sure I'm on the right page there. This thing can get kind of tricky. All right, but it's good. It's good. It's good. It's all good. And at this time, he is at Tuskegee Institute. So we're living down there in Tuskegee Institute, Alabama. The first thing I wanted to get done, speaking about his starting up his German and Spanish classes, etc., at Tuskegee, this is his foray into his first real opportunity to have to establish a course at a university or a college. Okay, he had been at Hiram before and he'd been teaching, but it was somebody else's class he took over. Now he's going to start fresh with his own class at Tuskegee Institute. So the first thing I wanted to get done was to familiarize the class with the people whose language they would be learning. So I gave them a short introduction to the people whose language and culture they were about to study. The next class period, I jumped into a pronunciation drill of some Spanish letters and their distinct sounds. That done, I turned to the remainder of the consonants. Then I began teaching the vowel sounds and the peculiarities of some consonants and consonant clusters. I taught the students to avoid pronouncing Spanish vowels as if they were diphthongs. The diphthongization of vowels tendency is typical of English speakers. However, they had to learn to avoid it. The students were quick to grasp these sounds, and their excitement was transferred to me. And I began thinking my family's move to Alabama was beginning to show signs of a very good decision. When I met with my other Spanish class, I found the enrollees had extended to me a similar welcome and willingness to engage themselves in the study of the Spanish language and an introduction to Spanish or Mexican history. Not Mexican, but Mexican. I'm taking it that was purposeful, that is not a typo. Culture and literature. So an introduction to Spanish or Mexican history, culture, and literature. Now, just by way of, for your information, FYI, most people think Mexicans are Spanish people. However, that is extremely far from the truth. As it turns out, there are actually 30 different languages, distinct languages spoken in Mexico right now, today. And that fact really shocked me when I learned of it, because I thought it was mainly Spanish, maybe some English, maybe a couple other European languages of some sort or another, and maybe an Indian language here or there that they hadn't been able to stamp out yet. But as it turns out, there are 30 full-fledged languages still being spoken by the people in Mexico, to the point where some of the immigrants coming to the United States don't speak Spanish. Spanish to them is as foreign as it is to us. So, therefore, you shouldn't assume that all people coming from Mexico speak Spanish or are of quote unquote Spanish descent. They may have some Spanish in them, but that's another story for a different day. We're not going to get into why that is. Okay, I'll let you think about it and figure it out for yourself. Meanwhile, the students in my German classes didn't display a similar eagerness to engage the learning process. Or so I initially thought. When I met with them on the first day of classes, one student appeared in class wearing his Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity beanie. I immediately asked him to remove it. He refused. As soon as he responded, I braced myself for a fight. My authority had just been challenged. Then I collected myself. My job was to teach German, not establish a classroom dress code. And certainly, I wasn't hired to wrestle with students. So I settled down, let him wear his damn beanie, and return to teaching. The wisdom of my decision to let this student's problem rest was shown the next time the class met, for he returned to class without the beanie and became the best German student in the class. A student who volunteered to participate in classroom assignments or projects. Moreover, the way I handled the situation demonstrated to the class I was a stand-up guy. After class, as I was walking back to my office, the student who had worn the Kappa beanie asked me, "Professor Crosby, are you Greek?" I responded, "No, I'm a nigger." Now that's a typical Dr. Crosby response. And this retort solidified the fact that Dr. Crosby was, if anything, a for real stand-up guy. He used to kill me with that stuff. Also, on the first day, I learned the students in one of my classes were juniors or seniors. I informed these students about the textbooks I had ordered and wrote the title of the text and its edition on the board. I was particular to note the edition because on my initial visit to the campus bookstore, the bookstore's manager told me the previous German instructor had used the same book, but an earlier edition. He went on to inform me that they had several copies of this edition on hand. He asked me to use this edition so the bookstore wouldn't have to discard them. It was too late to return them to the publisher and receive a refund. I pointed out I had knowledge of the edition he was referring to. However, even though I recognized his dilemma, I was sorry I couldn't use the copies he had on hand because the text I was ordering was a newer and much better edition. Period. I left the bookstore assuming I had solidified all of my book orders, especially the German text. The next time the class met, students told me the book I had told them to purchase was incorrect, and they were told to purchase another one. One student actually presented me with a copy of the book she was told to buy. I cursed under my breath, and after class went immediately to the bookstore. When I arrived, I learned from the bookstore manager he had been told by Dr. Saunders, or as we called him Sandy, Walker, to disregard my order and sell my students the text I had told him I could not use because it was an out-of-date edition. I confronted Dr. Walker about his audacity as soon as I could. How could he take it upon himself to change the textbook order that I had given the bookstore? He tried to explain his action, stating he ordered the change to save money. But I refused to accept it and demanded that he forthwith call the bookstore, have my textbook order honored immediately, and have them available for my students to purchase within no less than 7 days. It was unfortunate that I was, for the first time in my short professional career, met with an administrator like Dr. Walker, who felt he could arbitrarily change his faculty's book orders With this introduction to departmental management at one HBCU, historically black college or university, I was put on alert once more. I had agreed to join Tuskegee's mission to educate black young people. I'd even agreed to accept the same salary would have received had I returned to Hiram College. I was resolute on staking my claim in the groves of black academe, and I had convinced my wife I was correct, deciding to take our family into the bowels of a white hell in order to contribute whatever I could to the uplift of my people. While teaching at Hiram, I didn't ever encounter having my book orders changed, or at Kent State, even though I was nothing more than a grad assistant at the time. That would have been against both colleges' administrative policy, particularly when it came to academic freedom, which, by the way, is a really big topic that we have not been talking about lately, but needs to be talked about. I told Dr. Walker what I was thinking and that he should never insult me again by countermanding my directives to students or to the Institute's bookstore staff without having first discussed the matter with me. When I met with my German class again, I apologized about the textbook mix-up and told them the correct textbook would be in the bookstore within a week or so. Unlike my Spanish classes, the students taking German were juniors or seniors who needed passing grades in German to complete their required Bachelor of Science in Chemistry graduation requirements. Since the class didn't have books, I proceeded to take them through the basic steps to learning the language, just as I had done earlier with my Spanish students. I wanted to see how much they had already learned and how proficient they were in pronouncing German's vowels, A, E, I, O, and the U, as well as the double vowels, AI and EI, which are pronounced like I, but not as in the I in English. The umlauted A, large capital O, small o, and the U, and the more troublesome consonant clusters like the schwa or etc. and the, okay, you know what? I remember last time I read this, I skipped this part because he goes deep off into the Germanic, these pronunciations of these diphthongs, etc., etc. And I am going to skip that part because it gets a little bit onerous trying to read through that stuff online where you can't see what these letters look like. So I'm going to skip over that part and I'm going to go to these pronunciation exercises were especially troubling in the beginning, given some students dialect. You know, it's that southern thing going on, right? But we managed to work through it anyway. When our textbooks finally arrived, we launched into learning the language, paid more attention to pronunciation, and shifted their attention to active grammar exercises and sentence construction. I wanted my students to begin speaking German and Spanish as soon as I felt they were ready to stretch out. In the beginning, I detected the students in Spanish had a distinct interest in spoken Spanish. The interest was not found in my German students. As I pointed out earlier, a good portion of the students enrolled in my German classes were science majors and needed to have German on their college transcripts to gain professional acceptance as, say, qualified chemists. Hence, I was informed they were taking the course only because they had to. I had found a similar attitude in students taking German at Hiram and Kent State. The Spanish students were more aggressive learners. They too needed to have exercises that would bring life to speaking, reading, and writing either language. And we're going to break off right there. And we will pick up from there tomorrow. In the meanwhile, I hope you are able to follow the story. I hope it's not too dry or anything. I'm trying to make it as live as possible. Um, and I hope that over time that the story will start moving along a little better, because right now it's a little bit, he's kind of mired in the muck of this academia. But I felt this part is important. I didn't want to skip over this whole section because it was important in his development as a university professor, being totally out of his element, almost like in a foreign country, being in Alabama in 1963. And when he returned to the Northeast Ohio, or went to other parts of the country, he had these experiences in his pocket. So he was not a novice. It was not novel for him to be a professor at a university, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It makes a difference how many universities you are able to teach at and which ones, okay, in your development as a professor and as an administrator. So we'll see this later, and we'll get all off into that. Meanwhile, this is Doc Ock signing off. You know my time is up. It is the beginning of the month, and as a matter of fact, today is Dr. Crosby's birthday. So I'm asking everybody out there to join us in our fundraising campaign to celebrate Dr. Crosby's passing, his transition to the land, into the land of the elders, this upcoming February, on the weekend of February 17th to February 20th, 2022, by setting up a donation campaign on Facebook or on GoFundMe, etc. Set up a campaign to donate monies directly to Black Facts Educational Research Incorporated. And a matter of fact, don't even worry about the GoFundMe. Just do it right on Facebook. That will be the easiest way. Or go to our website and you can make a donation there. Okay, we have it set up where you can make a donation on the website. So, at any rate, make a donation. We got links available. When you see our profile picture, you'll see the coins next to it in the profile picture. You can click on that link, and that'll take you right to a donation page as well. We're going to need some money. We need some working capital to as we're in the early planning stages and organizing stages of this event. But if you can appreciate the work that Dr. Crosby did and the continuing of his legacy, then we need to have you on tap. You need to go ahead and make that donation. We only ask you to do this once a month typically. We're going to do it twice this month because Giving Tuesday is coming up later in the month. But we're asking you all to get started early on Giving Thursday. So let's start it up right now today. Giving Thursday, November 4, 2021, the birthday of Dr. Edward W. Crosby, the founder of Black History Month. So he's given a lot to us. It's time for us to give something black. In the meanwhile, peace out without a doubt. Let me just say Tuta Nana to Esther Owens over here and everybody else who's out there watching in Tubular Black Facts land. Please don't forget to subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel. We are going right into our transition. So we're going to our extra. Peace out without a doubt, with plenty of justice, because anything less disgusts us.